very much, Cathaoirleach. And I'd like to thank the independent group for bringing forward this really important motion. I think most families across the country have experienced pressures either from a childcare perspective or indeed from an elder care perspective. So this is a really important motion. I'll cover both aspects of this motion today. And in relation to elder care, Minister, in January the ERSI found that 74% of all nursing home beds were provided by private providers, with just 14 operators providing 40% of all beds nationally. Those figures should have set off alarm bells in the department regarding the consolidation of nursing home ownership, but instead it's just more of the same: express concern but do nothing. I accept that the Commission on Care is finally commenced, and that is welcome, but major shortcomings in the current model of care have been evident for some time. The impact of the pandemic should have led to a more community-focused approach to long-term care, but the over-reliance on private nursing homes continues. Increasingly, we are seeing this wealth extraction facilitated and even encouraged. Large nursing home operators, many of whom are financed by international private equity, now dominate the market, and this is forcing more and more independently owned nursing homes to close their doors. Between February 2020 and December 2022, the ERSI found that almost 1 in 5 smaller private nursing homes had shut down. This rapid decline disproportionately impacted rural areas. But I'm equally concerned about the lack of available alternatives to nursing home care, such as home care and new models of supported housing. A statutory right to home care was supposed to be delivered in 2021. This was then pushed out to 2023. And now, in 2024, we still don't even have the heads of bill. It's not even listed for priority publication in this Dáil term. And while home care hours and funding have been increased since 2020, waiting lists remain stubbornly high. In February, there were over 5,500 people approved for a home care package, but no carer was available. And Minister, I don't know if you've ever had that experience of getting the letter through the door to say that your loved one is entitled to care, but unfortunately there's none to give them. It's heartbreaking when that happens. These staffing challenges have only been made worse by regressive HSC recruitment freeze. February's progress report on implementation of the Strategic Workforce Advisory Group report showed that 3 of the 16 recommendations are on hold due to the recruitment freeze, and this includes recommendation 11 to significantly increase the proportion of home care hours provided directly by the HSC. This is just another example of this government's short-sighted thinking leading to rampant outsourcing of services. The perennial crisis in health and social care services won't be resolved by starving the HSC of funding. Decades of underinvestment in public healthcare infrastructure got us into this mess, and the solution will not be found in repeating that mistake. And my Social Democrat colleague Roisin Shortall has put in an amendment to that effect, and I hope that can be supported when this motion goes through. In relation to childcare, I think the fundamental problems that we see in both elder care and childcare in this country are pretty much stemming from the same basis, and that is the fact that these are and should be fundamental public services that we're somehow trying to squeeze into a private hole, and it's just not going to work. And when you try to make changes to that system, you do it in a piecemeal fashion, and it doesn't actually solve the problem. And so while I do welcome the government's focus on childcare, and Minister O'Gorman has done a lot of work in that area over the last number of years, I think it's just never going to be enough. He's never going to fundamentally fix the issue of childcare provision in this country by purely working within the current system, because the current model is not the model that will deliver best for parents or indeed the staff and providers across the country. Ultimately, and this is where the Social Democrats believe we should be going, is to a public model of childcare provision. And it's only once you get to that point will you actually resolve those issues. As I said, I do acknowledge that the cost element of it has been there has been efforts by government to focus on that. I don't think it's gone far enough. I don't think it's made as much of a difference in people's lives as it should have, but I do welcome those steps. But it isn't just about cost. It is also about availability, and it is also about flexibility. And the reality for very many families across the country is that there just is not the availability there of childcare provision. and the downside and the pressures that bring on families, it's primarily on the mothers in those families. And what it means is that oftentimes we see mothers who are unable to return to work because they just cannot either find or afford childcare. I'm going to just refer to Wicklow because obviously this is, it's my constituency, and really there isn't a week goes by where I won't have contact from a parent or indeed a provider in the county that is expressing concern about the direction of travel within childcare, and telling me about their own particular experiences when it comes to this issue. Indeed, I recently spoke to a mother who is a teacher, and she can't go back to work because despite signing up for childcare provision for her baby when it was born, and paying a deposit and being promised a place from August 2024, she's recently, in the last month, found out that will not be available for her until 2025. So the knock-on impacts of not having that provision available is incredible, because now not only does that mother have to, she's going to be at home, but we're now down a teacher. So you can see the impacts, and so there are sort of fundamental structural things that need to be changed. The other issue that comes up quite frequently for me is flexibility, and we went to a point where a lot of people work from home, maybe 1 or 2 days a week. But if you're with a creche or a childcare provider, oftentimes you have to pay for the full 5 days, and that puts enormous, obviously, pressures on, and it sort of negates the benefit of actually someone being able to work from home a couple of days a week. And I think that's something that we need to consider when we're looking at the childcare model, is exactly what do we want and who should it serve, and ultimately it should serve the parents, and it should serve the children. And once you get it right for them, I think you get it right for everyone. But we do need an affordable, a flexible and flexible service that is available to people, and easily available, not something that they have to essentially put their names down for before the baby's even born. Another issue that we've seen locally is actually that we've seen, I suppose, I think that the current reforms, what they're doing is actually preferencing the larger providers, and disadvantaging the smaller providers, and disadvantaging, even within the larger providers, disadvantaging the less profitable aspects of it. So we've seen a number of after schools close down, which again have meant that many mothers are now going to be very, very restricted in their work and when they can work. So there's all these small knock-on effects, and I think that we need to be looking at the childcare sector as a whole to make sure that we do provide a service that is fit for everyone and meets everybody's needs. And ultimately, I do believe, and Social Democrats believe, that until we get to a point where we have a fully publicly provided childcare system, that actually we're really just tinkering around the edges, and we won't get it right for anyone. Thank you.